So, ladies and gentlemen, let's talk about Attorney General Eric Holder. Shall we? Yes, we shall. Now, you may remember last week we talked about how President Barack Obama and his nominee to head the CIA, John Brennan, were unwilling to say whether or not they believed they had the authority to assassinate American citizens on U.S. soil. Now, of course, you know, they already claimed that authority exists on United States citizens abroad, and we've talked about, this multiple times on the show, that they have in fact used that assassination power at least 3 times on 3 U.S. citizens. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it is now official. Attorney General Eric Holder has stated in a letter to Rand Paul that yes, we can use that assassination power here on U.S. soil. Yes, we can. Reading from Attorney General Eric Holder's letter to Rand Paul, quote, "On February 20, 2013, you wrote to John Brennan requesting additional information concerning the administration's views about whether the president has the power to authorize lethal force such as a drone strike against a U.S. citizen on U.S. soil and without trial. As members of this administration have previously indicated, the U.S. government has not carried out drone strikes in the United States and has no intention of doing so." Well, that's nice, isn't it? That's nice. It's nice. They haven't yet, and they currently have no intentions to do so. Do they feel that they can, though? Do they feel they have that power? Yes, they do. Reading on, quote, "It is possible, I suppose, to imagine an extraordinary circumstance in which it would be necessary and appropriate under the Constitution and applicable laws of the United States for the President to authorize the military to use lethal force within the territory of the United States. For example, the President could conceivably have no choice but to authorize the military to use such force if necessary to protect the homeland in the circumstances like a catastrophic attack like the one suffered on December 7th, 1941 and September 11th, 2001. End quote. Okay, so 9/11 and Pearl Harbor. What does Pearl Harbor have to do with this, really, considering that it was the country of Japan? It was the actual country of Japan in World War II that attacked America, and then 9/11, what we had was mostly Saudi-born terrorists who flew airplanes into buildings, and neither time did we respond by assassinating American citizens. But no one is saying that if some person, was walking up to the White House with a bazooka, that we couldn't stop them and then someone couldn't kill that person who was about to shoot a bazooka. Of course that could happen. But there you have it. They say that yes, they can kill you, but again, they currently have no intentions of doing so. But if they wanted to, they could. So you better be good. You better not make them upset, because if they deem you a terrorist threat, they will kill you. Most importantly, they will not disclose what the actual circumstances are that the executive branch alone has made up and kept secret that would allow them to kill you. Anyway, let's fast forward. That was the letter to Rand Paul. Let's fast forward to Wednesday. On Wednesday, Eric Holder was at the Senate Judiciary hearing, where he was asked about those specific circumstances by actually another Republican Senator Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz, honestly, we're going to play it right here. Republican Ted Cruz completely destroys Attorney General Eric Holder in this following clip. Take a listen.
If an individual is sitting quietly at a cafe in the United States, in your legal judgment, does the Constitution allow a U.S. citizen on U.S. soil to be killed by a drone?
For sitting in a cafe and having a cup of coffee?
If that individual is not posing an imminent and immediate threat of death or bodily harm, does the Constitution allow a drone to kill that individual?
On the basis of what you said, I don't think you can arrest that person.
The person is suspected to be a terrorist. You have abundant evidence he's a terrorist. He's involved in terrorist plots. But at the moment, he's not pointing a bazooka at the Pentagon. He is sitting in a cafe overseas. The United States government uses drones to take out individuals when they're walking down a pathway when they're sitting at a cafe. If a U.S. citizen on U.S. soil is not posing an immediate threat to life or bodily harm, does the Constitution allow a drone to kill that citizen?
I would not think that that would be an appropriate use of any kind of lethal force. We would deal with that in the way that we typically deal with a situation like that. We would expect
with respect, General Holder, my question wasn't about appropriateness or prosecutorial discretion. It was a simple legal question. Does the Constitution allow a U.S. citizen on U.S. soil who doesn't pose an imminent threat to be killed by the U.S. government?
Senator Cruz is asking a very simple, straightforward question, and he has yet to get a response. Let's listen and give the Attorney General Eric Holder another chance to reply to this very simple question.
I do not believe that, again, you have to look at all of the facts, but on the facts that you have given me, and this is a hypothetical, I would not think that in that situation the use of a drone or lethal force would be appropriate, because the possibility...
General Holder, I have to tell you, I find it remarkable that in that hypothetical, which is deliberately very simple, you are unable to give a simple one-word, one-syllable answer, no. I think it is unequivocal that if the U.S. government were to use a drone to take the life of a U.S. citizen on U.S. soil and that individual did not pose an imminent threat, that would be a deprivation of life without due process.
Maybe I've not been clear. I said that the use of lethal force, and I'm saying drones, guns, or whatever else would not be appropriate in that circumstance.
You keep saying appropriate. My question isn't about propriety. My question is about whether something is constitutional or not. As Attorney General, you are the chief legal officer of the United States. Do you have a legal judgment on whether it would be constitutional to kill a U.S. citizen on U.S. soil in those circumstances?
A person who is not engaged, as you've described. Again, this is the problem with hypotheticals. But the way in which you have described this person sitting at the cafe, not doing anything imminently, the use of lethal force would not be appropriate, would not be something...
I find it remarkable that you still will not give an opinion on the constitutionality. Let me move on to the next topic, because we've gone round and round.
Let me be clear. Translate my appropriate to no. I thought I was saying no, all right?
No.
Well, then I am glad. After much gymnastics, I am very glad to hear that it is the opinion of the Department of Justice that it would be unconstitutional to kill a U.S. citizen on U.S. soil if that individual did not pose an imminent threat. That statement has not been easily forthcoming. I wish you had given that statement in response to Senator Paul's letter asking you it.
So, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. After trying to dodge the question and evade the question and dodging and evading and dodging and evading, finally, Eric Holder answers. He says that killing someone sitting in a cafe, drinking a cup of coffee with a drone is unconstitutional. Which, it sounds promising. That sounds promising. I'm glad that someone sitting in a cafe in the U.S. drinking coffee, they can't kill with a drone. But so that very simple fact that I'm relieved. However, there's the fact of what I pointed out before. When it comes to this power, what the government does claim to have, they claim to have this power, we still do not know what the word imminent means to the Obama administration. We don't know. So sitting in a cafe is not imminent. What is imminent? Remember, when we talked about the white paper a couple of shows back, the one that Obama claims justifies the assassination of American citizens overseas, that paper specifically says the threat does not have to be imminent. It does not define what imminent means. So does that mean that is there a difference of imminent on U.S. soil and on foreign soil? Is there a difference? Because on foreign soil, Obama has assassinated American citizens without an imminent threat. Like Senator Cruz said, they weren't pointing a bazooka at a specific target at the time that they were vaporized with a drone. That didn't happen. They weren't doing something right at that moment overseas. So it is different here, apparently. The rules are different on U.S. soil, which again is also unconstitutional. The simple fact is, if you're an American citizen and you go somewhere else, if you leave the country, your constitutional rights go with you. That is the whole basis. You do not stop being an American citizen once you step off this country. You're an American citizen if you're in the country of Mexico. You're an American citizen if you're in London. You're an American citizen wherever you are, and your constitutional rights by the Constitution are supposed to follow you there. Later on in the hearing, Eric Holder said that the white paper, the Assassination on Foreign Soil paper, will become more clear if you read it alongside the targeted killing memos. That he actually said that, to which I would reply, well, no friggin' kidding, Mr. Attorney General. Really? You're saying if we were allowed to read the secret kill memos, we would understand them better? Well, by God, that makes sense, doesn't it? Or are you going to let us read them? Are you going to publish them to let all the American people know? Of course they're not. Of course they're not. Of course they're going to keep the kill memos secret. Later on, Senator Chuck Grassley from Iowa, another Republican, asked Eric Holder, quote, do you believe Congress can pass a law prohibiting POTUS, the President of the United States, to use lethal force on U.S. soil? End quote. Eric Holder's reply was, quote, I'm not sure that such a bill would be constitutional. It might run contrary to the Article 2 powers that the President has. End quote. Now, ladies and gentlemen, Article 2 of the Constitution, if you're not aware, that is the part of the Constitution that lays out the powers that the President of the United States has as Commander-in-Chief. It was also the Article 2, that George W. Bush and John Yoo and Jay Bybee and Gonzalez, the Bush's Attorney General, it was the article that they all used to justify torture. That is what they used. They claimed that Article 2 does not allow any restrictions at all to be placed on the president, and if the president does anything, be it torture, be it rendition, whatever, if the president says he's doing it to protect the country, then therefore Article 2 makes any action the president orders and carries out legal. That is what they believe. That is what George W. Bush and Gonzalez and Holder and Holder now believes. That literally is the Nixon defense. When Nixon said, quote, if the president does it, it's not illegal. That is an actual quote from Richard Nixon. George W. Bush and Dick Cheney believed in it. And now you hear in his own words, so does Barack Obama's Attorney General Eric Holder, and by extension, through his actions and policies, clearly President Barack Obama believes in Article 2 as well, and the unlimited power that it provides. If you've been following this story and following Barack Obama when it comes to civil liberties in his first term, obviously Attorney General Eric Holder's statement shouldn't really come as a surprise, but I gotta admit, it's still a little bit jarring to actually hear him just like flat out admit it and say, you know what, we completely embrace it. We completely embrace the radical interpretation of Article 2. And to be so candid about it, I mean, the Obama administration has, there's no doubt about it. They have embraced the radical executive power grab of George W. Bush, and they have taken it further via assassination. So if you need another example, folks, that Eric Holder is a slime ball, which you shouldn't need it, but if you need one more example, he also said during the Senate Judiciary hearing, folks, that the prosecution of internet activist Aaron Swartz, who was, I'm sure you remember, driven to suicide by the prosecution of the Justice Department. He said that Aaron's prosecution was, quote, a good use of the prosecutorial discretion. That, ladies and gentlemen, is justice in the Obama administration.